I was born in 1949 in the Black Country. Went to grammar school there. It was a miserable failure. Went to technical college after school and then decided I'd like to teach. So managed to get sufficient qualifications to go to teacher training college. Taught for 12 years, and then largely because of Rod Grainger I started writing books, and after a couple of years of trying to teach and write books at the same time, I left teaching. I loved teaching, it was great, but there just wasn't time to do everything. I always planned that I'd go back into teaching, but the world of books and magazine articles kind of took over. I honestly can't remember. It must be more than 50, and I suppose over 1,000 magazine articles. No, I know it's over 1,000 magazine articles, but I haven't counted the books. Isn't that awful? I can remember what my first book for Rod was, which was an MGB restoration guide, and it was the first of its type. There were no other restoration guides on the market at the time, and we developed it really between ourselves and following up from some ideas from Paul Skilliter. So it was heavily pictorial with hundreds and hundreds of pictures in it, and that kind of set the tone from then on. The first book for Veloce was very much in the same kind of genre, which was a 2CV restoration guide, and it was a development of that original idea with literally thousands of pictures in that one, and all of them in colour. This restoration manual approach was to be very, very heavily pictorial, so you literally showed every step in the process. And what was interesting, and still interesting, is that lots of people read the books out and go, oh, that's great, I can see how to do that now, even if they don't actually want to do the work themselves. They're just fascinated by the whole process of the thing. Favourite, yeah, it's the latest one. It's a car I'd always wanted back from the 80s. I suppose this kind of dates me, and you always love cars from a certain era when you were younger, I guess. And we had an Audi 200, and I always used to look lustfully at the Audi 200 Turbo Quattro Avant, which had Audi Quattro running gear. What a beautiful engine that is. But a granddaddy state car body, which you can get lots of dogs into. But they only made about 250 of them. So when I found one in Ireland that had only done 60,000 miles, I went over and picked it up. And it was very, very sound and very original. But as with all old cars, it needed quite a lot doing to it. So we've just finished it. It's taken about 2 years on and off. So that's my favourite, the latest one. It's gorgeous. I just love driving it. You've got to bear in mind that many of the vehicles were restored specifically for books, and that I actually set up a workshop in the 80s and had 2 mechanics working for me, and we would take on restoration projects and charge people for the work, but we'd only charge them the cost price, so there was a big incentive for them to have the work done, and their car was going to be featured in the book. And that kind of win-win situation went on for a few years, where it became a win-lose situation, where my wife said, I'm sick of our double garage being used for all this work being carried out, but that's another story. And yeah, a lot of cars went through the process then, so they by no means were all mine. I've also been out to a lot of specialists looking at work being carried out and photographing work being carried out at those specialists' premises. So it's I can't put a figure on it. It must be hundreds, I guess. The toughest restoration, I think, must have been the Porsche 911, because I think you'd driven, there's a good word, isn't it? with Porsches to kind of try to meet the standards that are built into the car in the first place. Well, I don't like cutting corners anyway. I'm a bit fanatical about doing things properly, but the properly in the case of a 911 is of an even higher standard than anything else. So I suppose, yeah, 911 was the most challenging. Not necessarily difficult, but the most challenging because of the standards that you automatically set yourself with that car. How have I ended up with 9 animals in the house? That's a difficult one. Well, we've always loved animals. We've always had, my wife and I have always had dogs and cats. And a few years ago we ended up with no dogs and just a couple of quiet cats. And I hated it. I just disliked every minute of that. But I got invited to go to an animal rescue centre to take some photographs for their website. And when I got back I showed my wife the photographs and she said, "Oh, look at that big dog, he's beautiful, you can't leave him there." It was freezing cold weather at the time as well, which helped. So the next day we went and collected Guinness, which was our first rescue. So that was about 5 years ago. A month later, Hereford Pound decided they were going to put down all of their dogs because there was parvovirus, and the animal rescue, that same animal rescue, said, "Oh no, you can't have that, but we haven't got the capacity." So I went and spent 3 days helping to build new kennels, and the first batch came in, and within that first batch was number 2 dog from the rescue. My wife stopped me going back to the animal rescue, by the way. But it's yeah, they're all rescue dogs that we've come across and that need home. The latest was about a week ago. We took on a 3-week-old kitten whose mother had abandoned it, a feral cat. So we've now got this tiny little bundle of fluff, which is quite amazing because most people don't have kittens of that age. Naturally they should be with their mothers, so it's been a challenge of a different kind and really interesting to feed the cat and see her growing and getting her strength back.